It is easy to look at someone where they are now and assume they have always been that way. When people see Grace Brumley today, standing on the family worship center stage, eyes closed in soft reverence, her voice rising in pure worship, they see peace, steadiness, and trust in God. But every journey has hidden chapters. Every voice that sounds strong today once trembled, and every heart that appears calm has known storm. Grace's story is one of quiet transformation, not loud, not filled with dramatic headlines, but shaped by faith, loneliness, misunderstandings, and a deep desire to belong. A child drawn toward God. From a young age, Grace was known for something unusual. She was thoughtful. She observed more than she spoke. While other children ran, laughed loudly, and fought over silly things, Grace often sat still, listening. Some family members recall moments where she would sit at the piano and touch the keys slowly, as if trying to understand something deeper than the music itself. Not performing, not showing off, just listening. That stillness in her spirit was the beginning of something sacred. There are people who are drawn to God because life forces them toward Him through struggle, and then there are those who are drawn because their heart recognized Him early. Grace was the second kind. But even a heart close to God can still experience pain, confusion, and rejection. Arriving at JSM when things were not so easy. People today assume that Grace was always welcomed, always loved, always appreciated. But reality, especially in ministry circles, is never that simple. When Grace first came into the Jimmy Swaggart Ministries environment, she was not seen the way she is seen today. She wasn't the worship leader everyone admired. She wasn't the voice that melted the room into praise. She was the new girl. And being the new one in a place where everyone already knows each other is its own hardship. People didn't dislike her out of cruelty. They simply didn't know her yet. Some wondered, who is she? Does she belong here? Is she strong enough for ministry? Does she really have a calling? Or is she just another hopeful voice? In church communities, acceptance is often unspoken. People decide silently who they believe is called and who they think is trying too hard. Grace felt that silence. She felt the eyes watching, analyzing, measuring, and she carried something many never realized. She did not want attention. She just wanted to serve God. The loneliness that no one sees. When people feel misunderstood, they have two choices. Close their heart. Hold on to God even tighter. Grace chose the second. But that doesn't mean it was easy. There were moments, in practice rooms, in quiet hallways, in late nights after services, where she felt the ache of being present but not yet accepted. This is the kind of loneliness that doesn't come with tears, just silence. Grace was learning one of the hardest lessons God ever teaches. Your identity cannot be given by people, only by me. The decisions people judge. Like anyone young, new, and trying to find their place, Grace made mistakes, not dramatic scandals, not loud failures, just human missteps. She tried to please people who were never going to understand her. She tried to blend in when God had designed her to be different. She tried to walk paths that were expected instead of paths she deeply felt. Some choices were misunderstood. Some created distance instead of connection. Some left her feeling as though she was losing her own voice. But in each of those moments, something sacred was happening. God was shaping her. Not by lifting her instantly into acceptance, but by allowing her to feel the weight of being unseen, unheard, and uncelebrated. Because sometimes, hidden seasons are the birthplace of true calling. What saved Grace was not talent, it was surrender. People often think Grace rose in JSM because of her voice. But that is not the truth. Her voice is beautiful, yes, but beauty alone does not open spiritual doors. It was her surrender, her quiet, unbroken, consistent surrender. While others tried to prove themselves, Grace simply prayed. While others tried to build positions, Grace simply served. While others tried to be noticed, Grace stayed hidden until God Himself revealed her. This is why her worship feels different. It is not performance. It is not showmanship. It is not technique. It is spirit meeting spirit. And that does not come from talent. That comes from being broken, humbled, and rebuilt in the presence of God. Change does not always happen in a single dramatic moment. Sometimes it arrives slowly, like sunrise, soft, gradual, almost unnoticed until the light fills everything. For Grace, her transformation did not begin on stage. It began in silence, when no one was watching. A season of quiet reflection. During her early time at JSM, after feeling misunderstood and invisible, Grace reached a point where she realized, if I live to be accepted, I will lose myself. If I live to please God, I will find my purpose. So she stepped back emotionally, not from church, not from worship, but from the need to be seen. She stopped worrying about what others thought. She began praying not to be liked, but to be true. This is where her journey changed. God often waits for this moment, not the moment when we are strong, but when we are willing. A voice that was not just music. One evening, during a small worship rehearsal, not a service, not a performance, Grace sang with her eyes closed, unaware that anyone was truly listening. The song was simple, but something in the room shifted. Those who heard it later described it not as singing, but as prayer in the shape of sound. It wasn't loud, it wasn't impressive, it was pure. Someone in the room, some say it was a leader, others say it was simply someone God chose to use, recognized what many had missed. Grace did not want to lead worship, she was worship. This was the first time someone looked at her not as the new girl, not as someone uncertain, but as someone with a call. One person seeing what God sees is sometimes enough to open the door. Respect is not given, it is earned. Grace did not try to force her way into the spotlight. She did not rush, she did not compete. Instead, she showed up early. She learned every lyric, every harmony. She studied how worship changed the room. She listened more than she spoke. She stayed humble. And people began to notice something different. While others sang to be heard, Grace sang to reach God. This is the worship that changes lives. Slowly, the same people who once doubted her started to soften, not because she argued her worth, but because her sincerity was undeniable. Respect began to grow, not all at once, but steadily. The moment her purpose became clear, there came a time when Grace was asked to lead a worship segment, not the main set, not the closing, just a short piece. It was small, but it was heard. And when she stepped forward, something familiar returned. That stillness from her childhood, that quiet awareness of God, that peace that doesn't announce itself but settles gently like morning light. She did not try to impress, she simply worshiped. The sanctuary grew still. A few people closed their eyes, some bowed their heads, some felt tears they did not expect. Because there are voices that entertain, and there are voices that guide the soul back to God. Grace's calling had arrived into full view, from misunderstood to needed. Once someone experiences worship that comes from a genuine place, they recognize it every time. Slowly, Grace was no longer the new one. She became someone people trusted, someone whose presence brought calm, someone who reminded others how to breathe spiritually. The same community that once didn't know her, now could not imagine worship without her. This is the quiet beauty of God's work. He turns rejection into purpose, not by changing others first, but by strengthening the heart that remains faithful. What Grace's journey teaches us. Grace's story is not about fame, spotlight, talent, or recognition. It is about something far deeper. The power of remaining close to God when you feel unseen. Because the truth is, God sees effort no one claps for. He hears prayers whispered in silence. He promotes hearts that stay humble. Grace did not rise because people finally liked her. She rose because God knew, and that was enough. When God shapes someone in silence, the change they carry is not loud, it is felt. As Grace continued to grow into her calling, people did not just hear her voice. They experienced something in the atmosphere when she worshiped. And slowly, without announcement or intention, the worship culture at JSM began to shift. A worship leader who didn't lead with words. Most worship leaders guide the congregation by speaking. Lift your hand. Sing with me. Let's worship together. But Grace's leadership style was different. She rarely spoke. Instead, she would close her eyes, raise her hands gently, and let her spirit move first. People followed her not because she instructed them, but because she made space for God to be real in the room. She led with authenticity, a quiet openness that invited others into the presence of God. This is why her worship feels calming, steady, almost healing. It does not push, it invites, creating space for stillness in a busy world. The modern world is loud, fast, and constantly demanding attention. Even in churches, worship can sometimes become performance-driven. But Grace brought something many did not realize they were missing. Stillness, a pause, a moment to breathe in God again. People found themselves exhaling tension they didn't notice they were carrying, closing their eyes without being told to, feeling safe to be quiet inside their own heart. This was not just music, it was ministry. A place where God could reach people gently. Impact on young worshipers. Grace's journey especially resonated with younger believers, particularly young women who felt unseen or unsure of their place. They began to realize, you don't have to be loud to be strong. You don't have to perform to be valued. You don't need approval to have purpose. You can be soft and still be powerful in God. Many young worship leaders at JSM and beyond credit Grace with helping them understand that worship is not about having the strongest voice, but the clearest heart. She made space for quiet souls to believe they had a place. Grace's influence on worship atmosphere. JSM has always been known for spirited, powerful worship, but Grace added a layer of tenderness. Moments where music slowed down. Moments where tears fell without words. Moments where the congregation did not need to sing. They simply needed to feel God near. It became more than singing. It became communion, spirit speaking to spirit. Some say the sanctuary felt different when Grace led. Not louder, not softer, just present. Like every person in the room was being personally invited to rest in God's love. The quiet strength at the center of it all. What makes Grace's influence so meaningful is its humility. She did not try to become a leader. She simply remained faithful where she was. And leadership followed. She did not ask to be recognized. Recognition came on its own. She did not fight for a place. God gave her one. This is why her influence lasts, because it was not built on attention, but on authentic relationship with God. The lesson her journey leaves behind. Grace's life and ministry teach a profound truth. You do not have to be seen to be chosen. You only have to be faithful. Some are called to rise through power, influence, or loud personality, but others, like Grace, are lifted by quiet faithfulness, a steady heart, and a sincere love for God. Her story is not dramatic. It is not sensational. It is something far more beautiful. A life that God shaped gently. When people watch Grace Brumley on stage, they often see only the public version of her, peaceful, gentle, devoted. But worship does not begin on the platform. It begins in the unseen places of a person's life, at home, in private prayer, in the quiet moments when no one is looking. To understand Grace's ministry, one must understand the woman behind the voice, her marriage, her personal faith, and the quiet patterns that shape her day-to-day life. A marriage built on faith, not performance. Grace's marriage to Joseph Larson is not just a partnership, it is part of her spiritual foundation. Their life together has not been perfect because no real marriage is. Real love has seasons, days of ease and joy, days of misunderstanding, days of learning how to love each other better. Both Joseph and Grace are public figures, and that means their lives are watched. People form opinions, assumptions, judgments, and sometimes those judgments can be heavy. But one thing remained constant. They kept God at the center, even when they did not fully understand each other. Marriage deepened Grace's character. It taught her patience. It taught her how to speak with kindness even when she was tired. It taught her how to protect peace instead of reacting to pressure. And Joseph too grew through her presence. Her calm grounded him. Her steady spirit softened him. Her gentleness reminded him of Grace, not only by name, but in practice. Their marriage became a quiet testimony. Love does not have to be loud to be strong. Home, where worship begins. While the public sees worship music, the real worship in Grace's life happens in small routine. Quiet mornings before the house wakes. Sitting near a window with her Bible open. Whispered prayers while preparing meals. Singing softly while doing ordinary tasks. There is nothing dramatic in these moments. But that is the beauty. Her worship is not something she performs. It is simply who she is, even in silence. This is why her worship on stage feels real, because it does not begin on stage. The inner world no one sees. Grace is a thinker. She does not rush to speak. She does not react quickly. She listens first. People who are gentle are often misunderstood as weak, but gentleness is simply strength under control. Grace has learned to hold her emotions with maturity, speak softly instead of loudly, stay steady when life becomes overwhelming, rest instead of forcing results. Her peace comes from one truth: God is responsible for the outcomes. She is responsible only for her obedience. This frees her from fear, pressure, or performance. Her relationship with God is personal, not public. There are those whose faith is seen through what they say, and there are those whose faith is revealed through how they live. Grace belongs to the second group. She does not preach sermons from the stage, but her life is a sermon of stillness, devotion, and sincerity. She has learned to bring every concern, question, or heaviness to God first, before anyone else. Her prayers are not eloquent or dramatic. They are honest. Lord, hold my heart steady. Keep me close to you. Teach me to love like you. This is the heart that God can trust. Why her ministry feels different. Grace's worship touches people not because of vocal power, but because of purity of spirit. She sings from a marriage strengthened through patience, a home filled with quiet faith, a heart softened by humility, a relationship with God that is personal and sincere. When she worships, she invites others into the same stillness that God taught her through silence and hidden seasons. And that is why her presence lingers even after the music ends.